the Benefit Webinar Series. My name is Dwayne Shoemate, and I work with the Division of Developmental Disabilities and serve as co-state coordinator on the Missouri Employment First State Leadership Mentoring Project. In today's webinar, Ashley Lance will be presenting information on Title II benefits and work incentives. However, before we get into the webinar today, a couple of housekeeping items. Just remind everyone that everyone's phone lines are muted upon entry. If you do have questions, please post your questions in the Q&A box. If you happen to have technical difficulties, we would ask that you post those in the chatting box. Well, we do have a poll question for those individuals who originally signed up to indicate attending the in-person training in St. Louis. As we had a larger response rate for this training than what we had capacity in the room, we were able to request an additional on-site training date in St. Louis. And we want to thank ECONSYS and ODEP for making that optional to us, to where we can ensure that all individuals who had an interest were able to sign up. So for those in St. Louis only, with the poll question, please select your preferred date and location. Monday, August 13th would be at the Disability Determinations Office, which is located at 45 South Lindbergh Boulevard. And Tuesday, August 14th would be at the DMH Dome Building located at 5300 Arsenal Drive. So if you would, please record responses here. The responses will be saved, and at the conclusion of the poll, we will have an idea of who will be planning to attend which location. We are limited to no more than 50 individuals at any one site. So definitely we want you to have your preferred choice, and we should have flexibility in being able to accommodate that. Who does not have a response indicated today will be in contact via email to ensure that we have your preferred location. So as individuals are continuing that poll, what I will do is go ahead and turn it to Ashley to begin discussion on today's webinar.
Well, thank you. Good morning, well, good afternoon, and happy Monday to everyone. I mentioned we are talking about Title II benefits today and the work incentives that go along with Title II benefits. So as a reminder, I want you to visually put benefits in two different rooms, as we had talked about in webinar 1. So SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, lives in one room, and Title II benefits lives in a very separate room. So I want you to close the door to SSI today. We're going to open back up next week, and the majority of our conversation today will be on Title II benefits specifically. So open the door to Title II benefits and close the door to SSI. It's day. Just wait. All right. So today we're going to review the Title II basics just to make sure that some information is sticking in your brain. We're going to Title II benefits and what work incentives go along specifically with Title II. So again, as a reminder, everything is Title II based today. And then what do I do with this information? So we'll talk a little bit about what's the responsibility now that I know the basics of Title II. Okay? So what is Title II disability benefits, right? So remember that Title II benefits, we've paid into the system. It's an insurance benefit. It really is Social Security. It's Social Security, disability insurance, or it's the disabled widower benefit, or the child disability benefit. But I can't access this benefit unless I have specifically paid in to the system to pull my own benefit, a family member, my parents, or my spouse. Pull it based on earnings. And as a reminder, what insurance benefit is Title II married to? Hopefully you're on Medicare, right? So Medicare and Title II, they go together, and we have to wait for 24 months in order for that medical insurance to kick in. So Medicare and Title II, they're like peas and carrots. They are married, they go together, all right? But it does take some time in order to get that medical benefit to kick in. So once to point out there were some questions that came up in the webinar last time, and I anticipate that there's always going to be questions. There always are, and to ensure that I have the correct answer, don't be surprised if I say, I'm going to write that down and I'll get you the answer. But also putting all of that into a Word document, and you can access that by clicking on the link that you should all receive into a Griffin-Hammis SharePoint file. Word document there where we'll keep those answers, because as you continue learning about benefits information, I think you'll find that it's not to kind of keep the benefits folder, like really just have a folder, and anything that has to do with benefits information, just tuck it away in that folder, because you're not going to be using it so often that you remember all of the details. Just to pull out that folder and reference your material. And I do the exact same thing. Oftentimes I'm going back, making sure that I'm interpreting the rules correctly, checking with mentors, just because if we provide inaccurate information, because inaccurate information is already out there, right? It's like a widespread weed. So we have to really make sure the information we are providing folks is accurate, and I take that responsibility very seriously as well. So we'll just review them. Otherwise, I will assume that you all take time to go in and reference that Word document. One of the questions last week was, does unearned income, including child support, foster care, and alimony, impact SSI? So just creep open that little door. Again, this would be specific to SSI, but anything that could cover the cost of food or shelter is going to impact that check, right? So we'll talk more about next week. The answer is yes, all of those are going to impact that. And then how do I accrue credits regarding my Title II disability benefits? So this is where the question came up of, if I'm going to pull from my own work rec, right, how many credits do I have to pay in order to pull that benefit? So 1 credit is earned for every $1,320 of gross income you make. And once you've earned $5,280, then you've earned 4 credits for the year. You can't earn more than 4 in a year. So again, that information is in that folder for you, so please take the time to reference that, print it out, and make your own benefits folder to reference. All right, we're going to keep plugging away because we have a lot of information to cover in a fairly short amount of time. So, reminder, Title II disability benefits. We have this overarching Social Security related benefits. Right? We're looking at Title II, and next week we'll look at SSI. And Title II, there are 3 different flavors, remember? So I receive a Title II benefit, but I'm either receiving Social Security disability insurance or disabled widower benefit, which is the smallest population of Title II recipients, or child disability benefit, right? So I'm pulling from one of those categories. In cases you can pull from more, but please don't worry about that today. But know that there are 3 different flavors, okay? Let's just have a quick little review of Title II disability benefits. So remember that, and if I reference SSDI, it's oftentimes in reference of just Title II, but oftentimes the folks that we have the opportunity to work with more often than not are usually receiving SSDI. So SSDI or Title II benefits, they're all or nothing, right? So it's based on countable earnings, and we'll talk more about that. But if I'm below a certain level, I get my Title II check. If above a certain level, I'm not going to get my Title II check. So it's all or nothing. There's no in between, okay? So some really important things that I want you to pay attention to and things to memorize is the substantial gainful activity. Hopefully that sounds a little familiar to you because we talked about substantial gainful activity, SGA, last week. If you remember the definition, in order to receive benefits that I have to meet, the disability has to keep me from reaching SGA. So SGA is really important to pay attention to. In 2018, so every year, SGA reviews cost of living and just the amount that they associate with SGA, okay? So 2018, that is $1,180 per month. Statutorily blind, based on the definition of SSA, that's $1,970 per month for me, okay? So also, a big piece to memorize is that there are safety nets that go with Title II benefits. So there are these safety nets that protect me and allow me to test my ability to work, okay? So we'll talk about each of those safety nets in a few minutes. Notes also to remember is that during the trial work period, and we'll get to the trial work period here shortly, that SGA is irrelevant. So just that down. Tammy is saying that she has no audio. Do other folks, I'm assuming, have audio? And Tammy, I hope we can get you some soon. So, yeah.
Actually, you're coming through fine. I think anyone right now with technical issues in the audio probably just needs to check the source of their microphone and headset and see that they have it either set on their computer or speakers are turned on.
Okay, thank you. So again, during the trial work period, and we're going to get to that in just a second, but I want you to remember SGA is irrelevant. We're not going to pay attention to SGA during the trial work period. And then if an impairment-related work expense and subsidy apply, so I'm teasing you, we'll learn about these things here shortly, and our gross earnings could potentially be over SGA. So just planting the seed there, right? We'll get more into the weeds here soon. So that amount is associated with substantial gainful activity in 2018. Go ahead and pull up your polling and then select the answer that comes to your mind. And if you point ahead of time, you should answer. I'm still seeing polling for the, oh, there. Perfect, thank you. And we're saying non-blind. So the substantial gainful activity number for 2018. Give seconds. All right. The results. Excellent. So the majority of you are correct. $1,180 is associated with substantial gainful activity for 2018. Okay. So again, substantial gainful activity is something definitely you absolutely want to pay attention to. And just note that amount can change every year. So come October, November, just Google substantial gainful activity SSA 2018, and then you'll see if that number has changed for the next year. So let's look at what automatic work incentives apply here. So when I talked about those safety nets before, these are the safety nets that I'm talking about. I apologize. It looks like there are some random in consecutive. That does not show up when I send PowerPoint, so my apologies, but please that when it says send, that should be consecutive. First safety net is the trial work period. This 9 months, but they're not consecutive. So they can happen in varying points. Okay? And so any point in time I hit a work period, my check is going to remain. So I still get that Title II check, and I have 9 months that aren't consecutive. But I know the first little safety net, so in your draw this little net, the first one is the trial work period. As soon as that work incentive is done, so once I've hit my 9th month in a 5-year time period, then think of somebody cutting through that net. There is no way to put it back together. It's done. It is over. And I immediately start the extended period of eligibility. So the next safety net just automatically kicks in as soon as I've used up the trial work period. Extended period of eligibility is consecutive. It's 36 consecutive months, and it's just going to tick right along. So 6 months. And oftentimes, folks aren't going to know that they're in their extended period of eligibility, which would be an area of concern and something for us to really pay attention to. If I'm over substantial gainful activity during the extended period of eligibility, I don't get a check. So if I'm over substantial gainful activity, I don't get a check. If I'm under substantial gainful activity, I'm going to get a check. So remember, it's all or nothing. But that all or nothing doesn't kick in until I'm in the extended period of eligibility. I'm in the second safety net. And so it ticks along for 36 consecutive months or 3 years. So safety net, and this one just kind of follows the person along, right? So this is called grace period and cessation. And I have 3 months. So when a check is, I'm over substantial gainful activity and showing consistency of that I'm over substantial gainful activity, Social Security Administration says, congratulations, you're no longer meeting that definition of disability because you're meeting substantial gainful activity. Your disability isn't keeping you from making SGA. So we're going to give you 3 months of your check, and then your benefit is going to be done. So this period just kind of follows folks along based on when they consistently hit over SGA. Fourth little safety net is 5 years of protection. So after my benefit has terminated, I get expedited reinstatement within a 5-year period if I fall below substantial gainful activity. If my disability keeps me, again, from meeting substantial gainful activity, I can apply to go through expedited reinstatement so I can get on my disability faster. So we're going to dive into each of these little safety nets here in just a second. Just know that these safety nets are associated with Title II. So just only these go together, okay? So let's trade in a little bit more detail. Say one, so your first safety net, right? So draw that little safety net. Trial work period, or TWP, as you'll often see it referenced, months. Allow me to earn as much as I want and my benefit check. So let's say my benefit check is $800 a month. Okay, so I'm getting a benefit check, and say I go to work, or let's say I'm a professional gambler, right? If I make $50,000 in one night, Social Security Administration doesn't care if it's a trial work period. I can bring in $15,000, but I'm going to use a trial work period, right? Because the gauge of whether or not I've used a trial work period is anytime my wages are over $850 a month. So another example would be I'm receiving my Title II check. I get a job for $800 a month. I use a trial work period because my gross wages are not over $850. However, if my gross wages are $855, then I have a trial work period. Okay, I get 9 of those in a 5-year period. So it allows people to really kind of test their ability to work with fear of losing that check. So in reference to, okay, what does this mean for my job? So if you're supporting a job seeker or job candidate, you know if they're a Title II beneficiary, you want to know where they're at in this continuum of benefits. If you've never used their trial work period, fantastic. You have 9 months to help this individual, particularly either if they want to shoot above SGA, or excuse me, trial work period, fantastic, right? You want to help them count what months their gross wages are over $850 per month. However, in reality, right, many of the folks that you're working with may have already used their trial work periods. You don't know, and it's you would need to connect your WIPA project really to find out how many trial work periods someone has used. So it's really important. You could also ask someone when they've become entitled to their benefit or how long they've been receiving their benefit, and if they've worked in the past. So oftentimes, many of us have heard the rumor, well, I work over part-time, I'm going to lose my benefit, right? We've all heard that. What's associated with full-time is right around substantial gainful activity. So oftentimes, if I just work part-time, I just continue to float below substantial gainful activity. I may use a trial work period. However, it gives people that idea of safety that I'll continue to get my benefits and I can just work part-time and that's good enough. However, we're going to work incentives that will apply and allow folks to reach to their full potential. But just know that that's where that rumor comes from, that myth. So again, trial work period. Things I want you to memorize about trial work period. It's the first safety net entitled to 9 months in my trial work period. And anytime my earnings are above $850 per month, I'm going to check a trial work period in 2018. However, you want to look at years past because trial work period, the amount associated is going to change every year, just like substantial gainful activity, okay? Looks like we have a question here. So are earnings made from extended altered employment wages considered for the $850 of SGA? Yes, so any wages I'm receiving are going to be considered substantial gainful activity, whether that's in a facility-based employment, that is an enclave. If I'm receiving a paycheck and it comes to me in my name and it's over $850, but over $850 is not SGA. $850 is trial work period. 1,180 is SGA. Okay, just know that those are two different amounts. So, questions real quick about trial work period before we move on to our second safety net. Okay, we'll go away. Let's visually cut the net, right? So we're cutting the trial work period. It's done. We've used all 9 of our trial work period months, and we are immediately going to the extended period of eligibility. So I use my 9th trial work period. That safety net is gone. Say I use it up in May. That means in June, my extended period of eligibility safety net kicks in. So phase 2, and again, begins the 9th month, or begins the month after my 9th trial work period. It lasts consecutively for 3 years, so it just ticks right along. No matter how much money I'm making, whether or not I'm working, my EPE just keeps running. So, in the period of eligibility, the safety net, the protection, my countable earnings, so my paycheck, if it's below substantial gainful activity. So this is where SGA kicks in, right? So let's jump back here. Remember it says during trial work period, substantial gainful activity is irrelevant. Remember, trial work period is $850. When our trial work period is done, substantial gainful activity is relevant, right? So if my countable earnings fall below $1,180 in 2018, I'm going to receive my full benefit check. Taxable earnings are above substantial gainful activity, or $1,180 in 2018. I receive no title check, right? So it's all or nothing. But the benefit is, in my extended period of eligibility, anytime my wages fall below, I receive that check. So I still have that protection of still receiving check, right? So SGA or SA is really saying test your ability to work, so that we're going to provide you with that disability check if for any reason you struggle to meet substantial gainful activity, okay? So remember, extended period eligibility, just take along for 36 months and fall below $1,180 in gross wages. No questions asked. SSA doesn't care. Anytime countable earnings, however, are above $1,180, no check. Okay. So, any questions? Extended period of eligibility. Note with Title II benefits, so just kind of winding a little bit to our trial work period. So when I said, if I'm a professional gambler and I bring in $15,000 that month, I use a trial work period, but oftentimes we also hear folks say, oh, well, you know, I can't have more than $2,000 in my bank account. So as far as SSA is concerned with Title II, you can have as much money in your bank account as you want because it's an earned benefit. However, you need to reference your state Medicaid rules to know how much resources folks can have, which would be great. Charles Bentley question and discussion if you're on site. Know that isn't a thing with Title II because it's an earned benefit. So I'm not seeing any questions thus far with the extended period of eligibility. So the extended period of eligibility, it's done. We've used our 36 months, and we are now on to the next phase. So the grace period. So here's where things kind of get a little tricky. Our grace period is the first period of sustained, keyword sustained, countable earnings that are above SGA. Then I keep the benefit check that month, the following 2 months, no matter what my earnings are, right? So SA, excuse me for the Mondays, Social Security Administration is looking to see does actually have sustainable countable earnings that are above SGA or $1,180 a month. Meaning, say I'm making $2,000 in gross wages per month, consistently doing so. Social Security Administration says, congratulations, Ashley. You no longer meet the definition of disability. We're going to give you your benefit check this month, and going 2 months, and my benefit ceases. I'm terminating my benefit. Okay. So the piece, though, however, is this can also happen in your extended period of eligibility. So as soon as you have your trial work period, once you show countable, sustained earnings above SGA, I can terminate my benefit. So it's really important that we kind of know where folks fall. However, when I'm in the extended period of eligibility, and again, I fall below SGA, my check automatically kicks in. If I'm outside of my extended period of eligibility, if EPE is done, then if I no longer have that protection, my benefit is done. If I fall below substantial gainful activity, then I have to reapply through expedited reinstatement if it's within a 5-year window, okay? So this is where things get scary for folks because the reality is, so here's a real life story from Tales of Ashley's Job Development. So years and years ago, I was supporting a gentleman who was he was in his 50s, early 50s, and he comes to me for support in finding a job, and he wanted to work full-time. I was a brand spanking new developer. I didn't know a lick about benefits, and he ends up obtaining full-time employment, and he's making, I don't know, $8.50, $9 an hour. So years ago, that was also pretty good. And so he's thrilled. He gets this full-time job. Life is grand. I'm thinking, yeah, go me, job developer Ashley, great work. However, 4 months later, he comes knocking on my door and says, I lied because I terminated my benefits. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? He already used his trial work periods moons ago, years ago. He had used his extended period of eligibility a long time ago. So he was showing that he had sustained countable earnings above substantial gainful activity. He used his grace period and his benefit terminated immediately. So from the job developer standpoint, had I known this is where he was at in his continuum of benefits, we could have had a very real conversation so that he could anticipate that this was going to happen. However, we didn't have that conversation, so he was shocked, angry, frustrated, and unsure of what to do. So if you're working with a Title II beneficiary and you don't know where they're at in this continuum of benefits, you really need to get them connected with a certified benefits planner to figure out where they're at on this continuum of benefits. And figure out if they're in their extended period of eligibility, if they've used their trial work periods. And again, that can be difficult. So, I think making the referral to your working incentive planning and assistance project, if you are within the IPS model, you can definitely use the benefits planners there. But there's a big reality for folks, right? Because more often than not, I think that folks are in that same situation I was in years ago, supporting folks to get a full-time job. However, we don't know where they're at in that continuum of benefits. So, lessons, please, from my lessons. So, yes.
We do have two questions that came in private
thanks.
to the host, to where you're probably not able to view those.
No.
One of the questions asked, why does the trial work period begin when earnings are at $850 and not at $1,180? And then the second question is, does a person only have one trial period per lifetime?
Sure, questions. So why $150? I don't know the specialized calculation as to how they get to trial work period. However, my guess is that trial period is kind of that first level, right? So if you're at $850, great. I can earn anything above that. It might not be to SGA yet. So I think of it as kind of stair steps, but I don't know where the scientific reasoning behind $850 is. And then just one trial work period in a lifetime. I have one trial work period associated with the lifetime of that benefit based on that disability. So in most cases, yes, unless I were to terminate that benefit, have a new disability that keeps me from meeting SGA, and then apply again for that benefit. Most of the answer is yes, you only get one trial work period. And that's why it's so important that we have this information, because folks, and times they're using their trial work period idea. So particularly with trial work period, if someone is considering working at full time, it's fantastic if they still have those trial work periods to use and test out and say, am I comfortable working at full time? Yes, I want to continue. Or maybe for some folks, it's like, oh, I tried this, but it's too much. I supported a woman in that role, and her goal was to get to full time, but once she got there, it wasn't helpful for her mental health, and so she found out that working part-time was really a very comfortable place for her, and she was able to maintain her mental health as well as a career. And so, being able to use those trial work periods was a nice way for her to be comfortable in doing that. So, Brenda, great question. So what does the Red Book mean when it says it's a rolling 60-month period? What that means is I use those non-trial work periods within 5 years, right? It's got a 5-year window. So once I use my first trial work period, say in May of 2015, then they're looking at 5 years. So if I only use one in May of 2015, but I don't trial period until May of 2022, then I would start over. So in a rolling 60-month period, they're looking for 9 months of trial work periods within 5 years. And folks, I think they usually use them with a period, but that's something, again, to pay attention to. And again, not anything that you have to specifically track. That's not the expectation of this in our series. The expectation is that now that you know about it, you can start asking about it, and you can start referring folks to the right people to start getting this information and make sure that they can try and get information. So Brenda, but you still only get 9 months in lifetime of work. The rolling period, right? So you are, say, you only do a few 5 years, and then you start over in the next 5 years and the next 5 years. Sure. But the reality is, again, that folks, are consistently taking over trial work period or trial work level and continue with that job. So answers your question. So with Title II, a little bit about EXR, or expedited reinstatement. So this is our last safety net. So it's kind of your last little safety net that folks can count on if their countable wages drop below substantial gain activity, or SGA, $1,180 in 2018. I want to get that into your brains. Within 60 months of termination. So what does that mean? Once my benefit has terminated, so remember my friend Joe who terminated his benefit, once his earnings fell below substantial gainful activity, because he had terminated his benefit, he was outside of his EPE, it was only a seasonal position, so that position ended. So he was able to request expedited reinstatement of his benefits because he fell below substantial gainful activity within 60 months of his benefit terminating. So a 5-year window for folks to jump back into benefits without having to go through the full application process. So, and the really nice part is SSA says, hey, we're going to give you 6 months of provisional benefits while Social Security Administration makes that reinstatement decision. And so even if the reinstatement decision doesn't come back in their favor, often than not, they don't have to pay back the provisional benefits, and they can also get access to their Medicare. So again, really nice for folks to be able to receive provisional benefit and be able to request that EXR as long as it's based on the same disability that their original application was based on. Now that we've been talking for a bit, what amount is associated with trial work period in 2018? $750, B, $800, C, $840, D, $850.
They're doing the poll. We did have another question come in earlier, and I know that you will get to this later. But the individual inquired if the benefits planning query report would be helpful in ensuring knowledge of individuals' trial work period months.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have a whole webinar based on what is that BPQI and how might you request it. Now, I know that, so what is the benefits planning query and analysis? So it's a document that's generated by Social Security Administration that highlights when people became entitled to their benefit, and verified wages that SSA has received. So the expectation is not that you necessarily know how to read that benefit or that document. We will show you what it is, how you can request it. So if you want to dive into this information further, you certainly absolutely can. And then in your on-site training, we'll also have references, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So the answer is yes. I don't anticipate that all of you are going to want to get in that deeply. So, all right. So many of you, majority of you, are spot on. $850 is the total work period amount in 2018. So again, remember that amount can change. There's a document in the Griffin-Hammett share folder that details the trial work period amounts and substantial gainful activity amounts in the past years. So that you were, say, working with someone for 3 years and you wanted to go back and see, if they've been working at SGA, but you don't know the amounts for 2016 and 17, it would be in that document. And again, that's in the SharePoint folder for you. Thank you all for your participation. Let's keep trucking along. We've got 20 minutes left together. So Title II and substantial gainful activity. Piece is that substantial gainful activity is a decision. So what I mean by that is Social Administration is looking at whether you're earning substantial gainful activity, but it's really a decision on their part, not based on the amount. But if we look at work incentives, is your earnings going to hit substantial gainful activity? So we'll look at what work incentives can kind of help make that decision rather than just a number. So substantial gainful activity, looking for the value of a person's earnings, okay? So it's kind of a big piece. And it starts with looking at gross wages. So we always start with gross wages, talking about SSA and benefits. So we start with the gross wages of what someone has earned per month. And those gross wages exceed substantial gainful activity. Red flag to SSA, and they say, well, the person is right around, at, or above substantial gainful activity. So we're going to explore applicable work incentives. So I'm at or above substantial gainful activity, then SSA says, let's look and see if any work incentives apply to this person before we make the decision if this person's hit SG or not. So how do we figure this out? So again, we start with the gross wages. We subtract any sick, vacation, holiday pay that I've received. I've received that pay, but I didn't work on those days, so I get to subtract that amount. And then I also get to subtract any impairment-related work expenses, which is one of those work incentives, and we'll talk more about that, or the subsidy, which is another work incentive, and then that equals my countable earnings, okay? So again, remember, work incentives, we don't apply them in the trial work period because I can make as much money as I want above $850. There's no reason I would use a work incentive in trial work period. How I want to start using those, one SSA says now the SGA amount is kicking in, right? I've used my trial work period, and now SGA becomes what we pay attention to, okay? So let's look at related work expense. So this is a work incentive. Related work expense is anything that I'm paying for. Me, Ashley, as the beneficiary, I'm paying of my own pocket. It's got to come out of my bank account, my pocket. I need to have this item for work that I can work, right? So, but I pay out of pocket for it. It's not covered by Medicaid. It's not covered by the state. It's not covered by my parents. I actually am paying for the item. All has to be expenses that are related to an impairment. Not necessarily the impairment that got me to disability, but an impairment that I'm being treated for, okay? And those expenses have to be necessary for work. If I don't have in my life, then I'm not as great at, I'm not either as good, it doesn't get me there. So for example, if I'm paying out of pocket for medications, and this medication keeps my anxiety at bay, and without it, I'm just at work, I can't focus, but I've got out of pocket for it. So that could be an impairment-related work expense because it's necessary for me to work. It's related to an impairment that I'm being treated for, and I'm paying out of pocket for this item, okay? So it's an exhaustive list, and so for many of us, it can be frustrating. We just want a list of like, this is yes and this is no. But really, there's a lot of beauty in the idea that there's no exhaustive list because that means we can negotiate. And so really, if it's the idea that I'm paying out of pocket, that it's related to my impairment and it's necessary for work, there's a room on the floor to negotiate why this should be considered an impairment-related work expense. Example? Yeah.
We do have about 3 questions in the Q&A box.
Oh, I think those. I'm so sorry. Oh, I had my chat open. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
All right.
I believe you've answered them all down to one from Carrie, timed at 2:05 p.m., and then there should be 3 following that.
Wow.
2:05.
Okay. I see Mary. Yes. The first person, or excuse me, when you say, am I right? One?
No, actually, one is from Carrie Dulaney at 2:05 p.m., and it is, do you have to apply to start the trial work period, or does it begin as soon as the person begins receiving benefits?
Oh, interesting. So you have to apply for the trial work period. No. The trial work period, if I receive a Title II benefit, it just comes with it. So just think of it as it just comes with the package. However, as soon as I hit $850 in gross wages, I'm going to check off a trial work period. So the trial work period, the extended period of eligibility, EIR, and my grace period are all automatic. If I receive a Title II benefit, these incentives are gifted to me. I automatically receive them. They're already in place. It's why I have to start telling SSA, though, when I'm working, so they know when to say, okay, this person's used a trial work period. This person has hit SGA. Now, with the work incentive I'm talking about right now, the IRWE and the subsidy, however, I talk to my claims rep and let them know I have an IRWE, or you use that during their annual redetermination. However, but I've got to tell SSA I want to use these work incentives. However, those first set that we talked about is automatic. You don't have to apply. And
then requested clarification on, is the trial work period 9 months over a 60-month period or 9 months for a lifetime?
No, 60-month period, but it's a rolling 60 months. So it gets confusing, right? Because it's this rolling 60-month period. So on my first 9 months of trial work period, so in May 2018, and I don't use another one until May of 2019, still going to be in that same 5-year period, right? So I've used 2 trial work periods. However, but I don't work until 2030, then start over on my 9 trial work periods because there's been 5 in between. But oftentimes, again, they're using those much quicker than realize. So.
Another question about EXR. Is it better to ask it now, or do you want to continue with where you were going?
Oh, let's talk about EXR here.
The question is, are there reasons why the person dropped below SGA within 60 months that make them eligible for EXR, or is everyone who falls below SGA within that time frame eligible for EXR.
So are there why a person dropped below SGA in the 60 months that makes them eligible? Oh, there's no specific reason. It could be because I lost my job. It could be because my enabling condition has, if I have a chronic mental illness and and there was a traumatic event in my life and I wasn't able to maintain that and work at the same time. And there isn't like a specific list. If you fall below SGA for any reason, maybe, you get a medical diagnosis or for a reason, you can still apply for EXR. So it's like,
and then Loretta's question at the end.
So if a person began working and never made over $850, they would never use a trial work period. Yes, you are correct. So if a person is working and making $700 a month, they're fine. They're going to use a trial work period. They're going to trigger EPE because they're not also going to burn up those 9 months, right? So again, for a lot of folks, they play it safe and they just stay below, oftentimes work, or more often than not SGA, because they folks know about SGA than they do trial work periods. But yeah, absolutely. Right, Loretta. Okay.
And we do a question from Carolyn in the chat box, but what I will do is wait and ask that until towards the end, because I know you're running tight on time now.
Yes, yeah, and we still have the other question that was emailed that I want to get to as well. So IRWES, the amount has to be reasonable, okay? So a trip to Hawaii is not usually an IRWE. If I am using an impairment-related work expense for glasses and say the reasonable amount is $300, but I really want the Prada glasses that are $650, SA doesn't say that that's a covered IRWE. They want you to find reasonable glasses within the $300 to $350 range. I'm making that number up. So, but just as an example of reasonable. Also, you need documentation. So oftentimes the SSA claims rep is going to want a doctor, just say you're receiving treatment for the diagnosis, the impairment, whatever it is. It's easy to get them. I've never had an issue in getting to get folks to get an IRWE. So also, the other piece is folks have to have proof, right? So you have to have your receipt in order to receive approval for an IRWE. And you want to submit those during the continuing disability review process. Remember, we talked about that last week. So whichever benefit I receive, I have this yearly continuing disability review process. So that's when, during that process, is when I want to talk to SSA about using those IRWEs or subsidy. But again, only if I'm around SGA. If I'm below, like Loretta's point, if I'm below substantial gainful activity, then I need to worry about it. However, the message today is not keep below SGA so they don't have to worry about it. The message today is there are work incentives and we can help people get to working to their full potential by having a greater understanding of the benefits. Quick example. Sally used up her trial work period 2 years ago. She got a job earning $1,200 a month. So again, she's right above SGA, right? So SSA is going to say, well, Allie's right above substantial gainful activity. Let's look and see if she's paying out of pocket for anything. She pays $100 a month in prescriptions and beauty supply. So she has $150 in mileage for her modified vehicle. So for $1,200 in wages, she's going to subtract $250 in impairment-related work expenses. That would change her wages. It's SA's view of her countable earnings. So they're saying she has $1,200 in wages, but she's paying out of pocket $250. So her countable earnings in SSA's eyes is $950, which brings her below substantial gainful activity. So in that case, Abby is still going to get her full Title II check. She's going to get $1,200 in wages, right? So she's able to keep her benefit check and technically make over SGA, but in SSA size, because she's paying out of pocket for those expenses, her full wages are below SGA. So that's really an example of where it's a decision number, okay? So subsidy. Subsidy is when a person produces less than their coworkers without disabilities and receives extra support from other employees and all might get extra supervision or support from their supervisor. So a special condition is a job coach who provides support to doing their job, right? How many of you on here providing job coaching? That can be a special condition. Again, only want to apply these when folks are at or above substantial gainful activity. So the value of your support as a job coach or reduced productivity from that person, they get to minus that from their gross wages. Do DMH employment services count towards that? So with that departmental health, yeah. So I mean, if you're supporting someone in maintaining their job, that would count. So let's get an example. Bill finished his trial work period 4 years ago. So he gets a job at the bank earning $1,200 a month. So he used up his trial work period. He's all 4 years ago, his EPE, it's all done, right? 36 months. So he gets a job making $1,200 a month. He's right over substantial gainful activity, right? So he sees 7 customers in the time that his coworkers see 10. However, I want to make it very clear that in a subsidy, it doesn't mean that Bill is less than. It just means that his productivity might be a little less than his coworkers, but he is still valued. He's still paid the same amount. It doesn't make him less than, okay? So 7 divided by 10 is 70%. So Bill have a 70-cent production rate. So the employer is going to pay Bill, again, the exact same as his coworkers. That doesn't change. Nor we want it to. But he has a 30% subsidy. So this only applies if he's hitting substantial gainful activity. So we look at his $1,200 in gross wages. He has a $360 subsidy, right? So 70% of his wages, 30% of his wages. So $200 minus the $360 in the subsidy is $840 of countable wages. So that brings him below substantial gainful activity. So Bill still gets his Title II check and $1,200 in wages because he's below SGA by using the subsidy. And then we'll get to questions. I just want to run through these slides here really quick. So subsidy details. So the employer generally is going to need to sign a statement documenting the reduced productivity. So oftentimes as the job coach, as the employment support, you want to go in and help the business fill out that form. Because I'm often going to say, well, Bill's great. Like, all my customers love him. He's fantastic. He's not less than. And so there's a conversation that takes place. And we'll that into another webinar in supporting the business to fill that out. Also, the job coaching agency needs to provide a record of hours, so on the job coaching. So you would, your billing statement you use to show we did provide Bill this coaching. And then again, the important piece is this gets submitted during that continuing disability review process. So there's definitely some record keeping and supporting Title II beneficiaries to keep record of this information. The takeaway today, understanding what Title II benefits and the insurance are, right? So it's an insurance benefit I've paid in, and it comes hand in hand with my friend Medicare. So also understand that work incentives exist, right? The automatic work incentives that just automatically come with my benefit. And then have these other work incentives, the IRWE and the subsidy and the special conditions that I apply if needed or if it makes sense to me. Another piece is just doing some basic myth busting that you'll have in your toolbox. Let's see. In the link provided above today's presentation. Oh, okay, excellent. Thank you. The blank calculation form. So the blank calculation form should be in webinar 3. So you're going to use that next week and not this week. It has title 2, so that only has to do with SSI. There was a question that came through, and I was hoping to work this in.
Yeah, one of the questions was, that you probably haven't seen is it possible for someone who qualifies for Title II benefits, but is not initially, to start receiving benefits and move into a later phase? Does everyone have to move through the consecutive work incentives?
So if I did correctly, yeah, you have to follow through trial work period EPE. You have to follow through in that order. So it's set for everybody. The other piece, there's a question that came up is the pay date. Does that make a difference as far as when I get paid in the month? For benefits, it's about when my pay is earned, not necessarily received. So you want to be helped. So the answer is it doesn't matter what day that your pay date is on. For Title II benefits, again, they're looking at if someone's hitting substantial gainful activity. And so, for example, say they have 3 paychecks in a month, and that would push me over substantial gainful activity. However, if I provide record to Social Security Administration and say, I work on my 3rd paycheck, it actually covered 2 months. So it would be the last couple of days in May and the first couple of days in June. However, if I show them that the days that I worked in June are in June, the month of June, not in the month of May, and I can do that by showing them my pay stubs, my schedule, they can look and say, well, this person actually earned less than SGA in the month of May. It's just their paycheck makes it look like they received more. So they can separate those amounts out. So the point I want you to leave with is that it's all when the paycheck is earned, not received. But you have to provide Social Security Administration with proof of when it was earned. So again, your pay stubs as well as a schedule, and it's helping folks keep record of this information. And also, potentially utilizing work incentives if it consistently puts somebody above SGA. But it doesn't matter. Money is money, right? So gross wage or gross wages. We have a ton of information to cover next week in SI, and so please, I will make sure we get questions answered, whether that's through the Word document or taking a few more minutes of your time today. But thank you so much for carving out time in the middle of your Monday to talk benefits. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for your assistance. And for those who have posted in the chat box inquiring if it's too late to select the St. Louis location, if you would, please reply in the Q&A box your preference, and we will ensure to get that added. I know we did have one other question, Ashley.
Yeah, about IRWES. I'm seeing that now.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and answer that.
Subsidies requests be submitted outside of the disability review process. They can, yes, you could request that. However, Social Security Administration, your SSA claims rep, they may redirect you to say, please submit this during the disability review process. It could all get lost in the process. So, yes, it absolutely gets presented during the disability review process. That's when SSA puts their attention on it and says, okay, we're going to be reviewing if this person has hit FJ. So the biggest thing is that you can help people save their paycheck stubs if they're floating around substantial gainful activity. So now you could look at who is currently receiving a Title II benefit that I'm supporting and flag them. And then look and see how many months, what is their monthly gross wages. So anybody who's floating around or at or above substantial gainful activity, you want to flag them and either get them referred to your work incentive planning and assistance project. Again, We'll talk about in a later webinar, or to an IPS professional if you're within the mental health system, or making sure that they're collecting their pay stubs the months that they've worked, if they have any potential IRWES, and just get a folder, like an accordion folder, and help them keep those pay stub schedules in a folder so that they can reference them and show those to SSA during that disability review process.
Point out to everyone who's still on the line that each week we are archiving these webinars, as well as providing the link to the Griffin Ham Associates site where the presentations and resource documents are preserved. We are also putting together a list of the questions and answers so that way we can share those with individuals. And when we have the in-state training the week of August 13th, there definitely will be a lot of time to talk about practical application of each of these benefits and work and saves. Ashley, thank you for your participation today. I apologize to those still on the phone for us running 7 minutes long, but we do appreciate your assistance. And if you would, please complete the survey upon exiting the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.